thank you so much for joining us on the Coach Scofray podcast and Philippe
Thank
Grall.
you.
I go way back. I was a student in Ideal Coaching Global, United States.
Yes.
I was by then participating in the advanced training for executive coaching. That was the level I was taking training in, and he was a guest um, speaker or a guest lecturer on one of the days, and his story thrilled me. His story gave me a certain trust in the process I was going through as a coach. And having him here is for me, it's a blessing, as I'll put it. Felipe, please, you are welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to reconnect with you in this different setting now, only both of us. And I'm looking forward to it, I'm available. Everything you want to share, to talk, to ask, I'm here.
Great, great, great. Let me ask this. How is Philibot? How is he?
Yeah, Philbot is doing well. Is a great, let's say, virtual self, virtual me that I've created 2 years ago. And so what I've done actually is to model all my coaching process using AI that people can experience kind of similar experience that I do one-on-one with all my coaching clients with a virtual coach. So
Wow.
everything, the question I ask are modeled and put in a system that Philbot is asking the same questions. But the thing is, he's smarter than me. He has much more knowledge that he can also give answer that I have no clue about. That's bring humility.
Wow. I am inspired, and we will get a bit more into Philibot about how you are using AI to augment your coaching career. Take us through a bit of your journey, because even from your accent and from your experience, I know a bit of your story. Our followers, our viewers may not know that your journey and how it's been. Originally, what was your profession? What got you to transition from France to want to settle in Japan? How did you navigate the language, the this, the that, and everything? What Share with us that's your journey.
Yeah, thank you for asking. The journey started, I'm from Brittany, the western part of France,
Hmm.
in a little harbor, only 2,000 inhabitants there. So almost nobody. Farmers and fishermen. So that was my
Wow.
life. That was my life. The thing is, when I was 10 years old, there was a club, a karate club in the village. And I started to practice karate. And that was my first, let's say, interaction or encounter with Japanese culture by doing karate in this little village. And one thing has happened to me after that is my grandfather had a lot of books around philosophy, around Buddhism, and he gave me all his books. So when I was 15, I was reading books about Japan, about China, about all the philosophy in India, and I felt connected much more than from my own culture. That
Wow.
was something I felt to read the stories of all those great masters, and that was great. So that was my second experience to be close to Asia. And then, do you know the series called Shogun with
Yes.
David Carradine? So that was my hero. That was
Oh,
my hero. So, and when I saw that person with a lot of wisdom, practicing kung fu to help for the justice and things like this, wow. So actually, there's two movies, two series. One was kung fu with David Carradine. That was a Western. And I liked the flashback on he had a master when he learned when he was young, that philosophy, not only combat, but to have the inner game and to master himself. And then you had Shogun with Richard Chamberlain. We had this foreigner going to a very strange country with different culture, and he became the hero there. I say, wow. And he had a nice girlfriend. I say, I want to become like him. That was my inspiration. And then I moved to Paris. And I moved to Paris. I was a student there, learning marketing. And my father was traveling for business in Australia. And I also had a stop in Tokyo. And from Tokyo to Paris, he met one Japanese lady. And he told me, okay, Philippe, this lady is working for Air France as a stewardess, cabin attendant, but she doesn't know anybody there in Paris. So if you're okay to guide her and to help her. And I said, yes. And I forgot. And 2 weeks later, he called me and said, did you call her? I said, oh, no, sorry. And I did. and I met her. And we went to Paris together. And eventually she became my girlfriend.
Oh!
And she made me discover Osaka, not Tokyo, the Kansai part of Japan, which is more the western, the west part of Japan. And so I went with her to visit Osaka for 3 weeks. I was coming from a kind of cold country to go to very hot on summer, humidity and heat, but I loved it. That was in 1993 for the first time. I loved it. And I loved it at some extreme that I remember so well. When I was in a bus back to the airport, Kansai Airport, I was looking at the ocean there, and I promised myself to come back and stay.
Wow.
I felt at home. The only explanation I can give you why I'm in Japan, maybe in my previous life I was Japanese. I'm just back home.
I for some reason need to believe that indeed in your previous life you were Japanese. If I listen to the story that's far, how from very young age you have been so connected to the culture through the Kung Fu, through Buddhism, your affiliation, your quest for wisdom, so if I may call it, and how you finally landed in Japan.
Yeah.
In your professional evolution, how has that journey been for you? Because it's one thing going there out of love, one thing with all the inspiration. How has the evolution of your professional path in Japan has been for you?
Yes. So the best explanation I can give you is I'm someone who realized all my dreams, my kids' dream. Going to Japan was my dream.
Wow.
And somehow I could make it happen. After that, why I'm doing what I'm doing now is not by chance. I was my first client. When I was 15, I was very shy. I couldn't control my emotions. I was very judgmental, to criticize others a lot, also myself. It was very hard. Then I started to work on myself when I was 15 years old, buying some audio cassettes, books, how to learn relaxation, hypnosis, self-hypnosis when I was 15. And then I started to also, it was working on me. So I was also sharing and practicing with my friends. I started to also help my friends. I started to do that. And at the age of 18, I read a book offered by a friend of mine called How to Win Friends and Influence People from Dale Carnegie. That was eye-opener. So that could help me to overcome my shyness, how to become more confident about myself, how to communicate better with people. And then at the age of 20, I read the first book. The title was in French, The Secrets of Communication.
Wow.
And that was the first NLP book. That was a structure of magic in English. And for me, that was it. I say, oh, okay, now I have the tools. I have the keys to connect, to change myself, to help others, to be better with others. And I've been practicing NLP until now. So that was for me the biggest encounter as a technique to help myself. In France, I was studying marketing. I started to work as a salesperson in IT. Even if I'm not engineer, I changed 5 times companies. I didn't fit in. I found it was a bit boring. The only thing I liked is creating trust with clients, until a point that from the first day I went to Japan, I said, okay, now I really want to go there. And I could go to Japan 13 times in 7 years, knocking at the door of companies, telling I want a job. I want to work in Japan. And all those companies, they told me, great, do you speak Japanese? I said, no. So no Japanese, no job. So each time coming back to France, my dream started to fade out. I started to lose my motivation until a day, it was in 1999, one of my colleagues came to see me, and our client was a Japanese company. And for the company I was working at that time, I was the king of Japan. I was learning Japanese. I was going so often there. So my colleague told me, Philippe, come to our meeting. If you can communicate in Japanese with the client, we have chances to win the contract for the IT system. I went there with my few words of Japanese. I connected well with the vice president Japanese. His name is Debali-san. And after a while, I decided to invite him in Paris to a nice, fancy Japanese restaurant. And at the beginning of the dinner, instead of talking about business, I took the courage to share my dream. I told him, Debali-san, my dream is to go to Japan. He totally changed his face. He sold me his company. He told me, Philippe, we need somebody like you in our headquarters in Tokyo. I had nothing on my resume. I didn't speak Japanese. It was in the automotive aftermarket, all the accessories for the stores that they are making in Japan. I have no clue about it, the business. And my English also was not good at all. I had nothing. He just said, we need somebody like you. 3 months later, we had another meeting in Paris with my company and his company. And before the meeting started, he was doing that Japanese way like this. Please come here. I have a good news. Your contract is ready. I organize everything. You are going in Japan at the headquarters. And 3 months later, in 2000, I was landing in Tokyo for the first time.
So
thanks to that.
thrilling. This is incredible. That moment you had with the vice president, Philippe, take us to that moment. Whatever you can remember, what came out of you, what stirred in you that made you not even talk about your resume, but there was something in you shared that this vice president saw and said you are the kind of person they are looking for. Take us to that moment, as your memory can serve you right. What was going on within? What got you to say the things you said? I mean, share with us.
I think that It was not a plan. It was not a goal. It was a dream. And I said, my dream is. So that was also touching his heart. It was not logical. It was not a skill set. It was not, and to have somebody in front of him to have the courage to share his dream, because there is some courage there.
Wow. Wow.
And we had a good chemistry. From the few interactions we had in the past, we could feel kind of similar, on the same vibe, same way of thinking, openness, and so on, that he could sense. So that was also from his feelings, his gut feelings, he decided to hire me and put me in their headquarters in Tokyo. This
Philippe,
is where,
Philippe, I don't intend to interrupt, but I heard some three words, and I
yeah,
want you to use this opportunity to share more light on it. Courage,
yeah.
dream, and chemistry.
Yes.
Why are these three essential in let's say leadership in personal life?
So I can tell you something. In my coaching experience, I had so many clients, they were too shy to share their real dreams. So they kept for themselves. They never shared. They never had the courage to share it. They were judging themselves. I'm stupid. This is stupid dreams. And they kept for themselves. So nothing could happen. So to have the courage to overcome that and to share whatever the person will think, to expose, I think that's the key. And then to whom you can share, this is a chemistry. I felt that with that person, I felt safe enough that I won't be judged, that he will accept it, he will listen to it.
Wow.
The courage to share. Having a dream, recognize it, and to have the courage to share it.
You also mentioned intuition.
Yeah.
We are touching on this briefly because in the next episode we will look at how does all this play a role in coaching career you have built. So just touch briefly on intuition. Why is it also relevant if looking at your story and the track record?
So I think intuition is a part which is a lot of unconscious, and it's to tap in our emotions. And intuition it's something we can't explain logically, but we feel inside. And all my coaching is about asking people what they want, not what they should do, what they should be. It's to unlock and unleash their true self. And intuition is about first to respect their own feelings and their own ideas, whatever people think. So that's, for me, intuition is coming from that, is people feel something. It's not people think. In so many cases, when I ask someone, what do you feel? They answer like, I think that. It's so happening so many times. They are not connecting with their feelings. They're not aware.
I'm tempted, but let's do this conversation. So it's not a structured bullet to bullet interview, it's a conversation.
Yeah.
What, per your experience, what account for that? Where you just said you asked, how do you feel about this? What feelings are coming up for you? And they respond, I think. What account for that experiences for our clients until they go through their own coaching journeys? What do you observe?
So what I observe is most of the time we are on automatic mode. We're not anxious about how we think. We have thinking patterns and our comfort zone. And the people I work with, they have been to the best schools. They are very logical, very knowledgeable, are critical thinking. So they use their left brain, if I may say so, to answer to everything, to try to find solution to everything with their logic. And leadership for me is not logic. It's the logic of the heart.
No, Philippe, hold on. This is a landmine. This is a landmine. Say what you said again, and let's explore.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is most of us, we try to explain logically what we do to resonate. And leadership is not about reasoning. It's to listen the logic of the heart, what we feel. We have no justification. Then when you want something, when you feel something, then you can use your logic brain to make it happen. But first is to respect and understand our feelings and what we want from inside. And for me, the coaching I'm doing in leadership is to help people who have a big, great brain to go to a big, great heart and to connect both.
Wow. If we look at 15 years journey through 20 years through to the encounter with this vice president, I touched on those 4 keywords that you've explored that lead, and now this is a powerful insight. Leadership is not the logics of the head brain, but is the logic of the feeling of the heart. When you settled into Japan in the headquarters of this business, what did that opportunity offer you?
So that was my dream, to come to Japan, and I landed in 2000. And Debali-san, my mentor, if I may say so, put me in the IT department, in the overseas operation of the IT department. I'm not engineer, and I had all my colleagues around myself speaking Japanese, some Chinese, to deal with Chinese operations, and I didn't understand anything. And I was not engineer, so I have nothing to do there. So the dream became to become hell. It was hell for me every day. At 11 o'clock in the morning, I was already tired. Listening to Japanese that I didn't understand, I felt, what I'm doing here.
Your dream of being in Japan has now become something else, and you are questioning yourself.
Yes.
What am I doing here? Wow.
Exactly. And I called because Debali-san was still in France doing his job. And I was calling him every week, asking me, Debali-san, please do something. Get me out of this department. It's not for me. I have nothing to do there. And I could find ways to do some surveys about some software in the US and so, but it was not neither my skills, my interest. It was so painful. And eventually, after 1 year, he could negotiate at the Japanese style. We call nemawashi, to go with all the different directors, and finally to make me move to the overseas operations, building stores outside Japan. And same thing for me as a foreigner, the only foreigner, by the way, at the headquarters. I felt a bit isolated, but I could find ways to help. So I started to be more useful. And I helped the Japanese expat to move to Paris. I helped the American operation, making first online store, doing the first international newsletter, translated in 5 languages. So I did a lot of interesting things. Until one day, my colleague called Tanaka-san, sitting beside me, I was making the last newsletter to send to all the stores in the world. He told me, Philippe, I need to tell you something. You are too creative. We don't ask you to do any of the things. We want you to go back to Excel sheets, make the planning to build the new stores. I'm a creative person. I was doing everything I could to contribute. And that person was denying everything I was doing. And I can imagine my disappointments. And for weeks, I started to be totally demotivated. I lost my confidence. Debari-san was back to Japan at that time, and he could see my sad face. And he told me, Philippe, what's happening? I say, oh, I'm not good. I say, okay, let's have a coffee. And I shared, I say, I have no future here. People don't recognize what I do. I'm not interested to do what they ask me to do. So I don't know, I'm lost. He looked at me in the eyes and said, Philippe, you don't understand. You should know. You are a diamond for our company. You are a diamond. Still a rough diamond, need to be polished, but you are a diamond for our company. Hearing these words from him, finally somebody could see me. And it took me a while to understand what the meaning of diamond. And then to understand maybe that's my strength, this is something unique. And I started to realize that I've worked on myself all my life. Thanks to Debari-san, I could also go, still I was working at Autobacs, but on summer, I could go to Santa Cruz, California to learn NLP with the best teacher in the world 3 times to become a trainer. And I said, I know what my diamond is now. It's about personal development. That's my strength.
I think I now can explain how I felt about you about some 4 years ago when you came into the session, because I didn't know this part of the story. But guess what? Betty Sprue came to Ghana, I think earlier 1999, then in 2000 or 2001, I was on the program. She and the sister Joyce, Dr. Sue Lindgren, and Dr. Caroline Izisfukwa, they were running a training, I think live design, they call it, in short, Vista. And the first formal training they did, I was a participant. And Betty have asked a question, and I was the first person to speak. Philippe, guess what? That was when Betty pointed at me and said, look at this young man. He is a diamond in the rough. So just as your mentor said to you, it just hits home for me. Exactly Betty said to me. And as at that time, Philippe, I didn't even know what that statement meant. I had not even come across it as a metaphor or as an idiomatic expression. And I started internalizing, what does it mean to be told, to be pronounced that you are a diamond in a rough? So viewers, our listeners, this brings us to a wrap up of the first episode where we delve a bit into the life of one of the leading executive coaches in Japan, Philippe Grall, that I met about 4 years ago when I was an executive coaching student with Ideal Coaching Global. The next episode, we're going to delve deep into the coaching business itself, picking it from identifying that he is human capital developer. That is where his diamond gets to glitter. Then we will take a deep dive into that. So join us on the next episode. And as I promised you at the beginning of the year, that this podcast, the Coach Scofray Podcast, is to bring you the creme de la creme of coaches to share their journey and how coaching has impacted their lives and that of others. See you on the next episode.